our WESC webinar. We are pleased to have Mandy Thomas joining us today. Mandy is a financial coach helping individuals reduce their stress and anxiety about money. Mandy is not a financial advisor and does not help investing or insurances. During this hour, Mandy will help you to understand why you may have failed at budgeting in the past and will teach you how to get your finances organized and how to create a budget for your specific lifestyle. Thank you, Mandy, for joining us today, and please start whenever you are ready.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for attending today. I'm just going to say I'm not going to be on video today because I'm currently sick, so I'm going to spare you of that. And if you hear me pause, it's just to take either a quick sip, and if I have to cough, I'm going to try and mute my mic in time, but if I don't, my apologies. So the first thing I'm just going to start by is telling you guys a little bit about my story. So I'm Mandy Thomas, and I'm the owner and online financial coach at Mandy Thomas Coaching, and I live at Milestone, which is just 40 minutes south of Regina. So you're probably wondering what a financial coach is, and I'm basically like a personal trainer, but for your finances. So before I dive into talk about budgeting your personal finances, I'm just going to share a little bit more about myself. So I grew up in a family who experienced a lot of financial scarcity. We didn't have a lot growing up. And on my mom's side of her family, they have a lot of genetic heart problems. So growing up, my mom was always in and out of the hospital for surgeries and complications. She was in Vancouver for 6 months when I was younger, and she had to miss my sister's grad due to an emergency surgery, and she likely had over 30 surgeries in her lifetime. From a very young age, I knew that my parents truly weren't meant to be together. We all knew that my mom was sticking it out because she didn't feel like she had a choice. She didn't have the financial means to leave a situation that wasn't healthy for her. And let me tell you, the connection of your mental and your emotional health and stability to your financial situation is much, much greater than most people think it is. So I grew up seeing the ripple effect that is caused when someone feels like they don't really have a choice, like they're stuck and like they don't have any options. When you feel this way, you can do your best to keep it to yourself and to not allow it to affect anyone, but it really does come out in how you show up as a person every single day and in your happiness. So because my mom was going through such an internal struggle every single day, but she was a very strong woman, she didn't let us kids know how bad it was, and it really did affect our relationship with one another. So we had a really strained relationship, and it affected us for years. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to repair the hurt and the distance that came between us before it was too late. We always think that there's more time, but time is something that we just can't create more of. But I can use my experience to help other families to avoid experiencing what I have and what my siblings did and what my mom did. So I chose to learn everything that I could about managing my finances because I knew I needed to be the one in charge of them no matter what. So from age 11, I began my first business and supported myself financially since then. So from these experiences that I had in the way that we grew up, I became really, really anxious around money. So I brought this anxiety into my adult life. And even though I was doing really well for myself as an adult, I had extreme anxiety around money. I had my own struggles with my money mindset as I brought the scarcity mentality into my adult life from my childhood, and it caused many, many health problems from extreme stress that I was experiencing. I was so deathly afraid to lose what I had and to end up back in that situation that I was in as a kid. And even though I was making 6 figures in my career and I was managing my money very well and I didn't have any debt, my thoughts and feelings of financial scarcity, they really began to take over my life. So my stress led to anxiety, and then my constant worrying turned into severe adrenal fatigue and memory problems, as well as digestive issues. So the picture here on the right-hand side, that is me hooked up to a brain scan, because at age 24, I was having a lot of memory problems, And I didn't think that I was going to regain my memory. That's how bad it got. And I can't even really describe the feelings of embarrassment and feeling like a fraud, because you can't remember things that were once easy to you, and how afraid you are when you feel like your brain is failing you at such a young age. And a lot of the times, our bodies, they do our best to protect us from pain. So often we can develop coping mechanisms without even realizing it. For some people, it's eating, shopping, drinking, smoking, gambling, and the list goes on. And for me, my body was trying to avoid the feelings of pain that came with my anxiety. And my coping mechanism that I developed was eating. So I would be having a great day, and then all of a sudden I would start thinking about money, and my mind would go to basically the worst possible scenario every time, and then my anxiety would skyrocket. So I would turn to eating high carb or often sugary foods, because for a split second, that feel-good hormone of dopamine would kick in, and I would feel a sense of relief. But of course, this coping mechanism, it caused much more harm than good. So I suffered with digestive problems before my binge eating, and then when I was struggling with it as well. And I felt ashamed and disgusted with myself, and I truly felt like there was something wrong with me. I felt very unsafe in my own body, and I was scared of my own mind. I left my career as a power engineer, and I went back to school to study holistic nutrition. And during that time, I absolutely fell in love with the mental health and stress aspect of our schooling. So what I learned about how we're mentally, emotionally, and physically affected by the stress in our lives, and how it manifests and comes out in our bodies and our relationships, was the key that tied all of my personal experiences together. When I opened up to someone about my stress and finally talked about how I was feeling and my perceived finances from my poor money mindset, that is when my health dramatically improved. I made a full recovery of the many health problems I was experiencing, including my brain fog and memory problems, and I knew that I had to share my experience and insight with others. This is why I'm so incredibly passionate about helping individuals and couples with their finances. It goes so much deeper than just the numbers. It's about how you feel on the inside when you feel like you have more options, opportunities, and choice. You show up so differently in your life, and the beautiful ripple effect extends to so many people around you when you feel empowered, independent, and in control of your finances. I became a certified financial education instructor, and I began Mandyy Thomas Coaching. And I help individuals and couples to reduce their stress and anxiety about money, to feel confident with how they're handling their everyday money, and to improve their mental health by attending to their biggest stressor, their finances. I was able to leave my six-figure career, go back to school, and then start my business 13 months after having no income and not getting a job to subsidize it and not going into debt to get my business up and running. So today I'm going to share with you some of the tips I used in my life, as well as the strategies that I share with my financial coaching clients. And if you have any questions at all during this webinar, please pop them in the chat, and then I will just do my best to answer them at the very end. So the topics that we're going to cover today is why you feel like you failed at budgeting, the step that you need to do before you even create a budget, how to budget with a varying income, how to finally succeed with budgeting, and then the most common mistakes that entrepreneurs make when beginning their businesses. So I would love to see a show, if you would just comment in the chat box, how many people are just beginning your businesses, and then how many of you are 1 year or farther into your business. So I want to start by saying that when you want to start a business, the first place that you need to focus is actually on your personal finances. So you need to really get control of your personal finances, because that is what is going to get your business up and running. You likely don't have someone else paying for all of the capital startup costs, so you need to use your own personal money, which means you need to get your personal finances really dialed in first, so you have the money you need for your business, and also to reduce the feelings of stress and anxiety that you feel when you feel like you're running out of money when you're trying to continue to fund your business. That's why today's topic is all about succeeding with budgeting with your personal finances to grow your business faster and with less stress. So the reason that most people struggle with their money is because they don't know where their money is already going. They don't have that awareness of how much things are truly costing them and how much they're spending in each category. The next reason is because most people don't know how to manage and budget for expenses that aren't monthly, the ones that are yearly, twice a year, quarterly, and the non-recurring and random expenses. The thing is, we know that we have to pay for our home insurance every year, car insurance, Christmas gifts, car repairs, etc. But what we don't know is how to actually budget for this successfully. So when that time comes, we have that money available to pay that bill without stressing that our other bills will get paid on time and that we won't have to throw some of our bills on a credit card and then have credit card debt. Often what I hear is, I'm struggling from month to month, I can't save any money, I've tried budgeting, but it hasn't worked for me, or I overspend and I don't know how to fix it. Something else I commonly hear is, I don't make enough money. If I had more money, I wouldn't be struggling. Sometimes this is the case, that you really don't have enough money coming in, but often there is another underlying problem to all of these situations. So I want you to think about this. Picture someone who's won the lottery. Many people who have won the lottery actually end up broke in a few years or in even worse situations than they were in before they won the lottery. And about 70% of lottery winners end up broke or bankrupt, and twice as many lottery winners that claim prizes of up to $150,000 went bankrupt as did individuals in the general population. So why is that? Because they didn't know how to manage their money. You need to know how to manage the money you have right now, so when you do have more money, you know how to manage it then. I work with many people who have great incomes. I've worked with accountants and six-figure earners. And I can tell you, just earning more money doesn't solve your problem, and it doesn't end your anxiety around money. So even if you do make more money, it doesn't mean that you solve the problem, because the problem, it really lies in not knowing how to properly manage your day-to-day money, your cash flow into your account and out of it, and having the awareness of your habits and actions when it comes to making decisions with money. So this is what we typically think that successful budgeting looks like. We think that we take our income and minus our expenses from it, that this is how we're supposed to budget. But then at the end of the month, we still feel like we failed at it. We wrote down how much we thought expenses would be, and then when we looked at our account, things just didn't quite match up. We feel like we're still coming up short, but we really don't have any idea why. So first off, I want to say that you haven't failed at budgeting. The system that you were taught is what failed you. It was a simple system that doesn't actually support human behavior, our lifestyles, and being proactive with our money. So I present to you a new method of budgeting, the financially savvy budgeting method. So this method is different because it doesn't just take into account the recurring and fixed expenses and the day-to-day spending like most other budgeting systems do. It includes all three categories of expenses, which are number one, the recurring and fixed expenses, the ones that we actually do really well at budgeting for. Number two, the day-to-day expenses. And number three, the non-recurring and the random expenses, which is the ones that we often refer to as the whammies, the ones that seem to kind of just show up out of nowhere and then throw our budget completely out of whack, cause us to dip into our savings, or we find ourselves putting more expenses onto our credit cards these months to account for these whammies. So the first thing that you need to do is to write down a list of your fixed and your recurring bills. And what I want you to do is to organize them in the order that they're due throughout the month. Instead of just viewing your expenses as monthly, I want you to be viewing them in regards to your pay periods. Most budgeting systems that we've been taught are to budget monthly, but the system is flawed because most people aren't paid monthly, so you shouldn't be budgeting monthly. Most people get paid twice a month or bi-weekly, which means we shouldn't be looking at it budgeting from a monthly perspective. We need to look at it from a what all expenses am I going to be paying each pay period. The benefits of listing your expenses this way, it makes viewing your actual financial situation a lot easier because you know how much you're being paid on this date and what all expenses are coming out of your account during this pay period. The second step is to figure out your day-to-day spending, not for the month, but for this pay period. Now, this can be tricky because you likely don't know accurately how much you're spending on groceries, eating out, on gas, etc., which is totally okay because I'm going to tell you how to figure this out. So to make you really aware of this and to see how much you've been spending in the past few months, I recommend using mint.com, that's mint.com, which is a free tool that you can sync to your debit and credit card accounts. If you're worried about security issues, I just want to let you know that Mint, it uses the same level of security and encryption as your online banking accounts. So why I recommend Mint is because Mint will automatically categorize your transactions. Or if your online banking account shows you the categories and has a budgeting tool in there, then you can totally use that as well, if it's similar to what I've explained Mint does. So you can look through the trends and you can see approximately how much money you've been spending in each of those categories. And the reason I tell you to do this is because I want you to take out cash for your day-to-day spending, and looking at how much you've approximately been spending according to Mint will help you to be able to have a rough idea of how much you'll need. Our day-to-day spending can be a part of our finances that feels totally random and can take up a huge chunk of our money, and it often feels like we don't really know where it went. So by using a budgeting system that further categorizes these expenses that we can classify, that we would normally classify as like other or miscellaneous or general shopping, we're able to see how much extra spending we're doing, and then we can choose what we want to tighten up in our budget because we see realistically how much we're spending in these other areas. And I see a lot of times there's a lot of expenses that people will group into this other area. So awareness is a huge key in changing your finances when you take a real look at what you've been doing with your money and how much everything is adding up. It's a lot easier then to change your habits. This is the step that you need to take before creating a budget, is to have that awareness of what you're currently spending. Otherwise, if you're just writing numbers down, they're really just approximate and they don't really truly mean anything. So when you get paid, you will pay your bills and then you'll withdraw from your bank the amount that you'll need for this pay period. So like the next 2 weeks for day-to-day spending like groceries, eating out, gas, pet food, etc. So why do I suggest you do this? It makes money real again because it's something tangible in our hands and we aren't just swiping with our cards, and we tend to actually spend less than. So instead of having random spending expenses, it is now taking them into account and it's making them a fixed expense. So by having a set amount, it makes you aware that during this pay period for these 2 weeks, this is the amount that you have, and then when it's gone, it's gone. One of the most common expenses that I get asked about how to reduce is groceries, and the fastest way to reduce the cost of your groceries is by far to use cash. When you use cash, you are so much more aware of your spending, and you're not grabbing the little extras that add up every single time and end up costing you hundreds more in groceries a month. So you'll get better at judging the amount that you need in cash the more that you practice it. It really is just a habit, and developing any new habit just takes time and practice. Now we're going to account for the third category of spending, and the one that causes so many people to struggle, which are your non-recurring and your random expenses. So what you'll do is write down all of your expenses that you have that you pay for on a yearly, a bi-yearly, a quarterly basis, basically everything that you don't pay on a monthly basis. And then you can figure out approximately how much they'll cost you for the year, and you can divide it by 12 to get a monthly amount of how much you need to be saving each month for that expense. What most people do is they put money into a savings account and pull money from this account when those expenses come up. But the reason why that system very rarely works is because often you haven't figured out ahead of time and also prepared for the specific amount of money for each of these non-recurring and random expenses. Also, you're trying to save for multiple things in one account, so there's very little transparency to see how well you're doing for each thing that you're saving for. Then when you take money out of this one savings account that you have, you don't know how much is left for each of those multiple things that you're saving for. So you really don't know how much you need to be saving, and you don't have a system to cover these costs when they do arrive. So how you budget for your non-recurring and random expenses, you'll open up a separate savings account for each of these expenses, and you'll transfer a set amount of money on a set date each month to these accounts. Using this method has taken my clients from feeling guilty about constantly dipping into their savings accounts to finally having money saved and to see that number grow and to actually have money set aside for their different areas of life. So why does this work? Because having the money put away in its specific account makes it so the money isn't sitting in your checking account and appear as free money or as spending money. You actually know how much money you really can spend while making sure to cover all of your bills now as well as your upcoming bills. And it takes the guesswork out of figuring out how much money you actually have available. I have clients who were always putting things on their credit card when those months came around, and when they would have those big whammies that would totally throw them off, to now implementing this system and suddenly having an emergency fund that they actually don't touch or dip into. They have money set aside for travel and vacations throughout the year, money set aside for Christmas, so it's a much less stressful time of year, and so on. Your stress is significantly reduced because you're saving for a purpose, and it's really easy to see how close to your goals you really are. Something that I find very common is that when it comes to a relationship or a family, one person tends to handle the finances more so than the other person. So one person typically knows what's going on, but the other person doesn't really. So the person who doesn't do the finances and doesn't really look at them that often is making decisions that they don't really know the full impact that their decisions are making. So by having your finances set up, listing them by pay period, what is coming out and when, as well as including those upcoming expenses, it also makes it really easy for both people to see and to understand your financial situation without causing a lot of communication problems. So instead of one partner feeling like one person is maybe nagging or exaggerating when they're trying to talk about the finances, it is more so just fact that these are the numbers and this is where we're at. And it honestly helps so much with making us better at communicating about something that we're often quite emotional about and tend to not really communicate really well at. How to use credit cards in a healthy way. I often see people putting as many other expenses and transactions on their credit cards in order to earn points and rewards. And I'm just addressing this because I see it happen all of the time. So when you're putting a lot of charges onto your credit card, but you're not paying it off as soon as you make that purchase, as you would with a debit card when those funds would come out immediately, it makes it really, really easy to wind up in a situation that when your credit card statement comes in the mail, you have a hard time paying it because now it's a really large amount of money that needs to come out of your account right away. If you then in turn do carry a balance that you're not able to pay in full, those travel or rewards points that you think that you're earning so easily are actually costing you more because of the interest that you have to pay. So there's no way that the points or perks that you're earning from spending on your credit card are able to be greater than paying the high interest rates on carrying a balance on your credit card, which is often around the 19.99%. So to use your credit cards in a healthy way, you can use them to pay for your non-recurring and your random expenses. And how you do this is by transferring the money that you've already saved in those specific savings accounts into your checking account when that bill is due, and then paying with your credit card. Then you'll pay with your credit card. You'll pay your credit card off right away after that to ensure that you're using them responsibly and that you're not carrying a balance month to month, so you aren't being charged such high interest rates that then cause you to struggle more. So that's how you can still earn the perks from your credit cards. Emergency fund. So an emergency fund is just that, for emergencies. So an emergency is actually not your AC going or your car breaking down. Because when we have a home or a car, we know that we need to service, to maintain, and to repair those items. So we create additional savings accounts to save monthly for those items. An emergency fund is for true emergencies, such as someone losing their job or taking a pay cut, a family member getting sick and needing you to take time off to help them, to help pay for medical bills, you, your partner, a child or family member's health suffering and being diagnosed with a condition, a death in the family, etc. So when you first begin your emergency fund, you'll want about $1,000 in it. But we all know that $1,000 really doesn't go very far. So you'll want to work towards about 3 to 6 months of expenses. And I know this does sound like a lot, but if you were to lose your job, lose your customers, or your main income sources for your business, you would need enough money to know that you'll be able to make it until you get another job, until you sign more clients or have more orders coming in, which may actually take a few months. An emergency fund, it's one of those separate savings funds that I recommend you to be putting money into each month, especially when you become an entrepreneur, because there's so many more things that can happen that can affect your finances. So you really do need to be prepared even more than the average person who is employed by someone else. Because now you're not just taking into account your personal expenses anymore. Now you have to also think about your business expenses that you would still need to keep paying even with a drop in revenue. How to budget with a variable income. So a concern that I commonly get is, yeah, that sounds great and all, but I have a varying income, so I can't budget. I have actually never had a job or a career where I've had a steady income. It's always been variable. And many of my clients who have variable incomes that I've taught these systems and strategies to, they have been able to be successful at managing their finances. So I want you to know you can manage your money really well even if you have a variable income. You just have to be a little bit more organized and intentional. So when you have one aspect of your finances that varies greatly, such as your income, if your income varies from paycheck to paycheck or month to month, then what you'll want to do is you'll really want to dial in your expenses. So instead of having two really volatile situations, you can make it so just your income and that your other expenses are more constant. This is where you being organized and planning when your upcoming bills are is going to be the best thing that you can do. So one way to do this is actually to have two checking accounts. You can have one as your income account and then one as your bills paying account. So each time you get paid, let's say for example the first of the month, you'll transfer money from your income account where you're receiving your income or direct deposit to your bills pay account where you will be paying your bills out of. Because you already know for the next 2 weeks all of your expenses that will be coming out of your bills account. So when you have a fluctuating income and expenses, your finances basically look like an Etch-a-Sketch, which causes a ton of financial stress, and you are being a lot more reactive than proactive. So we're being really intentional so you can smooth out those lines and etch a sketch for your expenses. So now they're more like low rolling hills, or even better yet, a flat line, which is much easier to plan for. So how do you actually succeed with budgeting with a varying income? When you're budgeting and entering in your projected income, write it down that it's going to be lower than you think, and then you'll also be receiving it later than you would think. Because this makes it so you have more of a buffer zone than if you're estimating high and if it comes in less. It also helps you to cover in case your paycheck is late. You've at least planned for that. So if it is on time, it's really just a bonus. Also, I want you to create a list of what are your top priorities and how you will spend your money if your paycheck does come in higher. So then if it does, you're being really intentional with it, and you've already decided how you're going to use it instead of just spending it on things that don't really align with your goals and your values. And your goals are likely being a successful entrepreneur and being really successful with your business. So I want you to decide consciously ahead of time how you'll use that quote unquote extra money. So when it does come in, you've already decided it in a calm, rational, and intentional state, and not an excited and emotional one. Creating financial consistency from month to month. So when it comes to budgeting, what you may have experienced in the past is it's really hard to budget because each month is so different from the next. But when you're taking the non-recurring and random expenses that you're saving for them monthly, and you're planning months in advance, that's when your budget, it really starts to get dialed in, and actually each month starts to look very similar to the next month. So how do you put all of this into practice? When you get paid, you'll transfer money for this pay period from your income checking account to that bills checking account, and you'll pay your bills. After you've done that, then you're going to take out cash for groceries, eating out, gas money, pet food, and day-to-day spending. Then you'll transfer from your income account to your separate savings accounts for your upcoming non-recurring and random expenses. Then the amount that's left over in your account, you can actually truly see what it is, and it's actually what is left over at the end of your pay period for spending money. Or you can use this money to get ahead financially by either paying down debt or reinvesting it back into your business. This makes it so you reduce your chances of accidental overspending because there's so much transparency in your money, and you aren't spending money that actually needs to be used for upcoming larger bills. They're non-recurring and random expenses. It also makes it a lot easier for couples to see when your upcoming expenses are. It makes it easier to see what's been paid, what is left to pay, what's in your account, which totally reduces the stress around money in your relationship. Expenses that you can reduce right away. So the two most common first places that my clients can start saving money right away is on groceries, eating out, and their subscriptions. So focus on meal planning, and being more prepared when it comes to meals is literally one of the things that can either make it or break it for having more money you can put towards your business. So really be intentional about grocery shopping and meal planning and saving money there that you can. When you meal plan, you'll also eat better, which increases your energy and supports you in being more productive, and it actually does help to drive that bottom line forward as well. I don't know the statistic specifically for Canada, but in the US, they throw out about 40% of the food that they purchase that goes uneaten from excess groceries, food expiring or going bad, and a lot of it is due to poor planning and preparation. So a 4-person family loses about $1,500 a year on wasted food, and the statistic is taken from CNBC in January of 2018. So how your budget spreadsheet will actually work. So first off, there's many online programs that can track your spending and you can use to budget with, but the best system out of them all is hands down an Excel spreadsheet or a Google sheet for using for budgeting. because you can actually manipulate the numbers better, and you're able to budget by pay period instead of by month, which is what most online systems and programs are based on. The other problem with most budgeting systems or tools is that they are only set up to take into account what is happening this month, and you can't actually use it to accurately plan for future months with your finances. So in order to apply the things I've mentioned today, you'll need 3 skills. The technical skills of how to use the spreadsheet. The second one is the courage to dive deeper and to make changes and to be open-minded about changing how you've been doing things and to feel a little uncomfortable in the beginning stages of learning something new. And the third one is the accountability to stick to your goals, to keep putting the effort in and to overcome the challenges you'll face and the motivational slump that most people feel after the first 4 to 6 weeks of implementing changes with their finances. And you're totally normal if you need help with those things, which is why I'm here to help you. The second part of managing your money really well is your money mindset. You were also probably not taught about healthy money habits and behaviors growing up or when you were in school. Being able to be successful with your money, it isn't just budgeting. That is totally one part of it, but it's absolutely not all of it. And a huge piece that's lacking is teaching the awareness about your thoughts and your feelings about money. And it's super important because we are definitely emotional beings. And when it comes to money, we can often allow our emotions to get in the way when we need to be thinking rationally without emotion. Our financial beliefs, or what we think are our own financial beliefs, which often aren't, they are often the beliefs and the thoughts and the words that we heard about money growing up under the age of 7 that are subconsciously controlling how we handle or mishandle our money now. The most important thing is to just be really intentional to think about what it is you want to achieve and what your priorities are in your life and your finances. One of the most common questions I hear from entrepreneurs is, how much should I take for my business as a salary? And unfortunately, there is not a certain percentage because every business is truly different from the next, and it would really doing you a disservice if I gave you a percentage or a number, because it wouldn't be accurate at all. There is no one size fits all answer. So the unsexy answer is it really depends on your income from your business and your expenses, your profitability, your values and your goals, and what stage you are at in your business, as well as your personal lifestyle, among other factors. So something that will make it easier to figure this out is to know what it truly costs you to live your lifestyle. What do you need every single month for your personal life? And after following the steps of getting your personal finances in line that I shared today, you'll be able to make a lot more of an accurate figure. So when you're newer in your business or in a stage of growth or scaling it, you will really want to just take what you need to cover your monthly personal expenses and then use any quote unquote extra to put towards investing back into your business. Now, I want to talk about the 4 seasons of entrepreneurship because they're very important to know so you understand how the cash flow in beginning your business is affected by the stage you're at. So this is something I wish I knew before I started my business because it would have made me feel a lot better mentally and emotionally knowing that there are stages you'll go through building your business and some of the things that you'll experience so you don't feel like giving up before you've hit your tipping point, and to remind you of the seasons you'll go through so you can prepare yourself financially for it. So the first season is the season of spring. It's the season of creation, lots of plans and projects. You're full of ideas and you're super excited. You're feeling clear about your purpose. You're planting your seeds and you plant a ton of seeds. It's a very, very busy season and you feel like you're in hustle mode. You have so many choices of what kind of seeds to plant, and you might almost feel as if you're being pulled in every direction possible, which can actually affect your focus and cause you to put too much time, energy, or focus into multiple projects instead of having a clear focus on getting your main offerings and systems set up and running. You're spending a ton of time in the doing stage, and you're doing a lot of the hard things. This time requires a lot of effort to get the crop in the ground, because if you don't plant the crop now, you won't be able to make any money come fall when it's harvest. Spend a lot of time watering these seeds and nurturing them, and you may have a small network and not as much influence, but you're building it in the spring season. And you don't have very much income coming in yet. And what I want you to know is the season of spring can last longer than you think it will when you first begin your business. The summer season. This is the season of business growth. You're spending time continuing to nurture what has blossomed. Business is in full bloom and it's flourishing. The seeds that you were planting have now blossomed and your business is thriving. You start to feel super excited because you now have some money rolling in and you might even feel on top of the world. Fall, which is the season of harvest. Now, you feel like you finally made it. It is the time that you've been so excited to finally reach when you reap the rewards of all your dedication and hard work. You feel more in flow now. Your income is more stabilized as you have more steady clients, projects, or product orders. But something you do need to prepare for is for winter, which is often something we don't prepare enough for because we're super optimistic that the business will always be this steady, and we feel like we've sacrificed a lot when building our business. So it's time to treat ourselves and to purchase some things because we feel like we've made it, and we almost forget that there are going to be those ebbs and flows. Because the winter season is coming, you need to be mindful of it and to have money set aside for that time that you need to maybe take to rest or just when your business slows down. Winter, the season when things slow down, and in winter the cash flow might start to slow down, so you do need to prepare for this in the fall. The seasons, you can compare those to planting a crop and harvesting it, but what I don't want you to compare are the time periods, because your season of spring will take you months or maybe even years. Everyone is different. And this is something I don't think enough entrepreneurs talk about. And when we go into entrepreneurship, sometimes it's almost as if we have blinders on because we're so excited about all of our ideas and all the people that we're going to be able to help and the lives that we're going to be able to change, that we sometimes don't prepare for the time that things are going to take. So that's why I want to share that with you, is to really help drive home my point about getting your personal finances in order as quickly as you can and to keep on top of managing them really well as your business grows, so you have the sufficient time needed to get through the spring season and to the summer and fall seasons in your business. So if you're starting out your business on a very small budget, or you've been at your business for a while and funds are still tight, use that to empower you and not disempower you, because you can use that money to be really intentional and resourceful, and you can make your business successful. You just need to be intentional about it. And if you're at a point where you don't have a lot of money, I recommend reading the book The Power of Broke by Damon John. He's one of the sharks from Shark Tank, and he talks a lot about how a bootstrap approach can actually be the reason why you're more successful with your business, because you don't have a lot of capital to use. So you have to be more intentional, creative, and super resourceful, and you're more careful with your money and what you do have to make your business happen. One of the biggest mistakes that I see when people go into entrepreneurship is that they don't allow a big enough gap for them to build their business. So the gap is the difference between your income and your expenses. In order to create the startup capital that you need and the money to sustain your business until your income coming in is greater than your expenses, you need a greater gap between your personal income and expenses to have more money available to fund your business. So the problem that I see is that people don't create this greater gap soon enough. You can't keep living the same lifestyle that you currently have and also create the necessary capital needed to start your business. So if you're worried about taking a step back from your current lifestyle because someone might notice, what I want you to know is that the Joneses, they look like they've got their financial life together. But what you don't know is they've actually got more debt than you, and it's causing them to feel stressed, and it's affecting their relationship. So it's not really something to be envious about. The Joneses are actually right now looking at you and thinking, wow, they've got it good. So don't allow the fears of what others will think if they notice you taking a step back stop you from building or from scaling your business. Personally, when I started my business, I knew I had to take a step back in my life. I actually sold all of my horses, which was a complete shock to everyone, and even my husband didn't want me to. But I knew that I only have so much energy in a day and that my business needed all of my attention while I was getting it up and rolling. And I was going to be sacrificing my health and my business if I tried to do everything at once. So this is the first time in my life I have not had a horse. Did it hurt? Yes, it did. But it was the emotionally smart decision, absolutely. So I affirmed to myself that once I had a business that was very steady, once I had more health and reached a level I was confident with, that I would absolutely get horses again. And I truly believe that. And it doesn't bother me now because I'm really focused and I had to go all in. And that meant taking a step back in my lifestyle in order to be able to do this. So the reason it's so important and helps you to really succeed with your business, really dialing in your personal finances as soon as you can, is because we are often optimistic about how much income we'll have coming in right away and often underestimate the amount our expenses will be to bring this income in. So think about how often you feel like you get the whammies in your personal life. And I'm sure that by now or soon enough, you'll realize that with entrepreneurship, there are so many more whammies that you can and do face. So we often think that things will pick up faster than they will. And I'm not saying this to alarm you, but I am saying it to prepare you. I see the backside financials of many entrepreneurs. And while it looks like some people are earning a lot of money, many of them have very high expenses as they're trying to grow their business. So therefore, they may have high income, but not high profitability. And I want you to know that income and profitability are two very different things, and one does not equal the other. So I encourage you to ask yourself, what do I value most in my life? Oh, is it frozen right now? I'm just gonna, it's not frozen? Okay, sorry, I had just seen the comments there. Sorry about that. So what I want you to do is to ask yourself, what do I value most in my life? What are my core values? Are they freedom? Are they flexibility? So do I need these things or these expenses right now in my life? Or can I reduce them temporarily while I'm getting my business up and running and profitable? Because if you value freedom, it does take structure to get to freedom. And having structure helps to reduce emotional spending, accidental overspending, and giving into the short-term indulgences and impulses that can hold your business back while you're trying to grow it. Another thing is to sit down with your partner, if you have one, and to really talk to them about your goals, about your vision with your business, and your why. The reason it's so important that you become a successful entrepreneur. So the decisions that you both make with your finances support your business and your vision. Having you both on the same page as soon as possible can reduce a significant amount of stress in both of your lives. So focus on where you can reduce your expenses in your lifestyle while you're building your business. And when you do that, use that money that you're now saving to put towards your business. By improving how you manage your personal finances, you actually set yourself up for greater business success, because when you know how to handle money better in your personal life, you'll be able to handle money better in your business, which is a huge issue that I commonly see as entrepreneurs not knowing how to handle their business finances. And it all starts with the skills of your personal finances. And a mindset that I commonly see is people saying, well, I'll just hire a bookkeeper. Having a bookkeeper is great, but number one, you won't have one as soon as you begin your business. And number two, a bookkeeper is recording the transactions and the decisions that you've made, but you are still the one in charge. So it really does go back to you and your money management skills. I also want to talk lightly on something that more people are starting to talk about, but they aren't talking enough about, and that is the mental health connection and entrepreneurship. So entrepreneurship is hard and you wear a lot of hats, especially in the beginning stages. So I really encourage you to reach out when you need help. Reach out to people who can help you in the areas that aren't your strong suits and to reach out sooner than later. You began your business because there is one area that is your zone of genius, and not everything you experience in your business is your zone of genius. So in fact, there's many areas that are your weaknesses. So please don't struggle for a long time before asking for help, because it really takes a toll on your mental and physical health and it weighs you down. And what I want you to know is that asking for help is courageous, not weakness. Because it doesn't take courage to sit and struggle. It takes courage to speak up and to reach out for help. So reach out. This has a huge effect on your income because it affects your energy, and your energy is one of your biggest resources needed to be profitable. So don't think that you're the only one who's experienced what you're going through or what you are going to go through. And please don't be ashamed or embarrassed to reach out for help. Do it for your body's sake. There's people out there who can help you, so your struggle is so much shorter than what they've been through. If you need accountability to succeed with how you're managing your money and to be able to create a much larger gap to fund your business faster, or if you want to reach your goals quicker, send me an email to mandy@mandythomas.com. And my name is actually spelled with 2 Y's. That is correct. And because you attended this webinar that Women Entrepreneurs was so gracious to host, I have a special offer for you to help you get started right away. So for the next 24 hours, you can get my one-on-one 2-hour personal finance power session for only $449. And it's an offering that's in a value of $499, and you can get it today at this special rate. The coupon code is WESK, and this is where you can book your session, but you can just send me an email and we can get you booked in. So this is one of my clients, Angelie. She was able to speed up her financial journey by years by working with me. She lost the feelings of overwhelm and not even knowing where to start. And now she feels confident in how she's managing her money, and she's building her business faster at the same time too. So I want to leave you with a quote that budgeting isn't to restrict you from everything you enjoy. Budgeting is to give you the freedom and to live the life that makes you feel most fulfilled. So I would love for anyone to ask any questions that they have, and I will answer them for you now. And it's so great. I'm just going back through the chat. I just see that there are a lot of people who are just beginning their business and some people who've been in their business for quite a while. So it's awesome to see such a variety of amazing women in here. If nobody has any questions, I will turn it back over to Wesk.
Thank you for teaching us how to speak budgeting. I also want to thank you to everybody that was able to join us today at this webinar. You'll be able to view this on demand on our website within a few days. The next webinar is the break-even analysis and is presented by Larry.